Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one. Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. On bar.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three. Lamas covers. Three-handle family gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, welcome to another B Plus podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's our favorite day here at the B Plus podcast. It is Aussie Grapps Friday. We sit down and talk about everything happening in the world of Australian professional wrestling. We also sit down and speak to an Australian grappler or grappler-adjacent person. This week, I sat down to speak to, for my money, one of the best grapplers in terms of pure grappling skill in all of Australia that Australia has ever produced, the World Beater Damian Slater. We're going to talk to him about his new YouTube series and a whole bunch of other things. So stay tuned for that. First, though, we want to talk about what's happening this week in Australian wrestling news. Starting, as we do, with our Aussies overseas. We've got a lot of Australians overseas at the moment, guys. I cannot do this. I cannot keep track of this many people going on excursion at once. So, we got a lot of our girls over in Shimmer tearing things up at the moment. Shazza McKenzie, my personal favorite Australian pro wrestler, had a title shot against Nicole Savoy. I have not seen it yet, but the Shimmer streaming service doesn't do their live shows now. It only has like the back catalog, and it's a bit behind as well. So I think it was available on Fight. I might try to get it on Fight and see it, but at the moment, as of press time, doesn't help us, does it? Because I haven't seen it, so I can't really say much about it other than I have heard it was a phenomenal match against Nicole Savoy there. She unfortunately did not come out with the title in tow, but she put on a good effort anyway. Charlie Evans is there at the moment. Jessica Troy, doing their Blue Nation thing. They're over there. Steph DeLander and Indy Hartwell did some teaming for them too. We've had people show up at Rise. The All Elite Wrestling girls did a run-in at Rise while some of our girls were in the ring. There's a lot of Australians overseas at the moment, though. It's not just the girls. It's WrestleMania weekend, of course. I can't even keep up with how many shows there are this week. So it's insane. Jack Bonds is over there, Mick Moretti's over there, Robbie Eagles is over there, Caveman Ugg is over there, Gino Gambino. They got the whole Bullet Club block party thing they're doing. JXT is over there at the moment. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. There's a lot of people in there. The Velocities are still tearing things up over in the UK. They had another match with RevPro this week. So they're over in the UK being the odd men out while everyone else is in America for WrestleMania weekend. Robbie Eagles is actually one of the most booked guys over WrestleMania weekend, from what I can tell. I mean, like I said, there's so many shows. There's so many shows on this week, you guys. I think on just the shows I wanted to watch, I counted like 60, 70 plus hours or so of wrestling. It's absolute insanity. So, but yeah, Robbie's booked on a lot of shows, lots of multi-man matches. This is kind of the weekend of multi-man matches, which is probably something we'll talk about on the call-in show. But Robbie is booked on a whole bunch of shows, and a couple of our other guys are booked on shows as well this week. It's very, very exciting. Best of luck to all of our guys that are over there, all of our guys and girls. We hope you kill it and make a good impression. But taking a look locally, and my news sections can sometimes get a bit rambly and long, so I'm trying to stick to a top 5 format. We're going to pick 5 top stories for the week, and it's going to make me really have to sort of look a lot harder at what I decide to include. But this week, we've got our top 5 ready to go. World Series Wrestling have announced that Rich Swann is coming to Australia for the first time ever Rich Swann will be a part of the World Series Wrestling Tour coming up in June alongside Pentagon, Joey Janela, and Jordan Grace, who have already been announced. We will see Rich Swann, a former WWE Cruiserweight champion, of course. So a little bit of a hot button issue, of course. Rich Swann was let go from WWE after, reports of domestic violence. He apparently, put his partner into a headlock. I think it's Su Yung into a headlock and dragged her back to the car. Now they've since come out and said no, look, like she dropped charges and she was like, wasn't that bad. It wasn't. I don't know the words exactly, and so I don't want to mess this up. I don't remember exactly what was said, but essentially, it was apparently a misunderstanding. How putting someone in a headlock and dragging them to a car they don't want to be in, how that is a misunderstanding, I do not know. But I'm not here to question her story. If she says it was a misunderstanding, let's hope that's not just a side effect of abuse and that it was a misunderstanding. And, we don't know full stories. It's enough for a lot of people, though, to say, I don't think I want to go to this show. So it's an interesting choice by World Series Wrestling. I guess we'll see how much it pays out. Because, look, he's being booked by Impact. He hasn't been blackballed as other people who have done similar things have been. So maybe there is more to the story. Who knows? All I know is Rich Swann is coming to Australia. Rich Swann is a fantastic wrestler. I enjoy his in-ring work. And it's a moot point for me as to whether it would be enough for me to not go to the show, because there's no show in Adelaide. It's only Melbourne and Sydney. But you gotta wonder whether this will affect attendance positively or negatively. I'm very interested to see sort of how this plays out. There has been a bit of online pushback, you can see in the comments and things on World Series Wrestling, and they have been deleting those comments, which is a little unfortunate. If it's comments like wife baiting scum, sure, that can go. But if it's a legitimate question of what's the stance on this or that, I don't think that that's something that you should necessarily be deleting. It's a chance to engage in conversation, I think. And if that's not what you're interested in, then, sure, delete away. But I think it will raise some red flags with people if you're just going to delete anyone asking reasonable questions. So, it's a hot button issue, but, that is what it is. Rich Swann coming our way, 21st, 22nd, 23rd of June, Southeastern Entertainment Centre in Melbourne, Penrith Panthers in Sydney for World Series Wrestling. Zero fear. In other news, Wrestle Rampage, Uprising, the show that was cancelled due to the heat that we experienced here in Adelaide a few months back, is set now for May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Interesting choice for date for the show. Of course, May the 4th be with you is Star Wars Day. This is International Star Wars Day. And I imagine they're going to do some Star Wars themed stuff. I think some of the imagery is already a bit Star Wars themed. Here in Adelaide as well, early May is the time. I don't know how many of you who listen to this are complete nerds like I am, but the Gumaraka Medieval Fair. I never know how to say that. Gumaracha. The Medieval Fair is on that weekend, May 3rd and 4th. And I was all stoked to go to both days of the Medieval Fair, and they have a really awesome feast on the Saturday. May 4th and 5th, sorry, it is, yeah. They have a really awesome feast on the Saturday night. And now, if I want to go to the Wrestle Rampage show, I have to skip the feast. It's not ideal. I really wanted to be at the feast, but I'm gonna have to skip the feast to go to Wrestle Rampage. So interesting date choice. In other news, Tyson Baxter announced today that he has torn his ACL. Terrible timing for him. He's had a lot of momentum in Melbourne at the moment, and all over the place. There have been eyes on Tyson Baxter and Jet Ricker, the Mile High Club. Obviously, they were my pick for Melbourne for wrestler you may not have heard of, but should pay attention to in 2019 because they wrestle good and do other stuff good too. I think that's what it was called. I'm starting to lose track. It was way back in January, but it was my New Year's Day episode. It's very easy to find if you want to go back in the archives to listen to a quick interview that I did with the Mile High Club. They've been turning heads. They've had a lot of momentum. Big match with Robbie Eagles, big tag match with the Loose and Reckless. And to have this, to have this knee tweak, and thought it wasn't serious, and then turned out it was serious. It's a torn ACL, and he's going to be out for quite some time. That's never good. That's never good for anyone, and he's going to have to sit on the sidelines and watch as his peers, keep getting opportunities and keep progressing. And he had an interview with On The Turnbuckle where he actually spoke about all of this, which you can go and listen to. I'll drop a link in the show notes, as I always do. Good friends over at On The Turnbuckle. you go listen to this because, you know, he talks about it. He's not going to waste the time. He's not going to waste that. He's going to use this time to work on character building. He's going to go to all of Crackerjack's promo classes. He has the right... This is a kid who has the right mindset to wrestling. As a person who watches wrestling, as a person who, you know, listens to a billion podcasts and all this stuff, and based on everything that I know about the wrestling industry, this kid's going to be successful because he has the right mindset. This is a slight setback for him, but it's not going to stop him. And I'm very excited to see when he comes back, how he comes back, and, you know, the level at which he comes back, because he's going to come back hungry. He's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder. And, you know, we're going to talk in a moment with Damian Slater about having a chip on your shoulder and how important that is. And Damian Slater puts over this kid. Tyson Baxter is incredible. And he has a bright future. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he comes back. Get well soon, Tyson. We hope you're okay, man. And, you know, and as well, with injury can come. We've seen it with Carlo Cannon and his posts and things that I've talked about on the show before. With injury can come, you know, that mental barrier. You can get to a point where it's gonna suck. And so I hope that Tyson is you know, comfortable reaching out to support networks, because, you know, mental health is something that is very important. So always reach out and get well soon, man, because we love you and we want to see you back in the ring, and we're excited to see you back in the ring. As for things that are happening in the ring last weekend up in Queensland, don't talk about Queensland a lot because, you know, there's not a lot that makes tape. There's not a lot that I get to see. You know, you follow along on the social media, you get Instagram stories, you get bits and pieces here and there. And there are some good things happening up in Queensland, and it's worth talking about. It is worth talking about. And Venom Pro Wrestling held a show last week, and Next Level. That is Todd Eastman, of course, the host of Wrestle Radio Australia. He has a little faction up there called Next Level. It consists of himself, obviously, as the manager, and then Jake Nova, Jackson Cross, and Headstrong, JL Gold and Xander Sullivan. And they're on a tear at the moment in Venom Pro Wrestling. So Jackson Cross actually just won the brass ring ladder match, which it's essentially a Money in the Bank, right? It's the thing that you can cash in for a main title shot at any time. So he's got this brass ring, and all the other guys have belts too. So Headstrong are the tag team champions, and Jake Nova is the Origins champion. And now that Jackson Cross has this brass ring, he can cash in at any time for the main title. And if he's successful, they're going to have every single title in this company. So at this point, I mean, I'm pulling for him. I'm pulling for him because I love this story of these guys coming in and taking over. I mean, Todd Eastman did a hostile takeover of the company last year because the former owner had to borrow money from someone in order to afford Will Ospreay, Bad Luck Fale, and other internationals. And he missed a payment. He was missing his payments. Now, this, of course, is all within the storyline universe of Venom Pro Wrestling, people. It's not a, you know, Iron Fist situation. It's an actual thing that's happening in the story. And he's missed a payment, and so in comes Todd Eastman and takes over the company, and with his Next Level guys, and they just run roughshod over the entire place until they eventually have a War Games style cage match where they lose, right? And the champion turns on them because they were trying to get him in their scene, and he turns. Tim Cade turns, and he ends up, you know, giving Anthony control again after the stipulation on the War Games match. Anthony gets control. The former owner gets control. The stipulation on the match, of course, is the former owner gets control. So, you know, after Tim Cade turns and doesn't sign with them, the control goes back to the former owner, but they're still in the company, and now they hold almost all the titles. And it's fascinating to me to see what the next step in this is going to be. So all eyes on Venom Pro Wrestling as we see if Jackson Cross can wrestle that title away. Finally in the news, Damian Slater, we're about to talk to him. He's launched a new web series, World Beater Wrestling. Now, as I say to him, you know, web series are all the rage at the moment. You got Loverboy Lockie Hendricks' Loverboy Farewell Tour. Maddie Wahlberg just did the 21st Century Success Story in the build-up to the Caveman Ugg match. Of course, Moretti's Dream Scheme. You got Elliot Sexton, the original, I do believe. Well, no, because he also had the Crackerjack TV. I don't know which one started. The old Crackerjack one was a while ago. So, yeah, there's a lot of these things. These web series are all the rage, and I understand why. Like, look what Being the Elite became. Look at what Being the Elite became. Being the Elite has become a $1 billion wrestling, or a promotion with billions of dollars in backing, from billionaires. So it's, a web series can become pretty fucking awesome. It's gotten Elliot Sexton signed to NXT. I mean, you got to think that's part of it. Anyway, Damian Slater, he's launched a new web series. His is a little different. His isn't narrative focused. His isn't kayfabe. His is full behind the curtain look at training. So the first one, which went up tonight as I record this, was focusing on neck strengthening drills, and he's showing you, different ways to get ready for ring. It's ring conditioning and things like that. So it's very interesting. It's a different spin on a web series. And you got to think that, like I said, Damian Slater, one of the best grapplers this country has ever produced, a wealth of knowledge in that man. And he's putting it up for free on YouTube. This is a resource that no one who is interested in wrestling, potentially becoming a wrestler, or just understanding more about what wrestlers go through and what wrestlers need to do, this is an invaluable resource. So head over to worldbeaterwrestling.com, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, on the Facebook, whatever you need to do. And with that, let's go and talk to the man, talk to the world beater himself, and then I'll hit you after that, and I'll hit you after the interview with what's happening this weekend near you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Grapps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OutbreakNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OutbreakNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. All right, I am joined at this time by a former WWE Cruiserweight Classic competitor, a card-carrying member of the Mighty Don't Kneel, one half of the former EPW Tag Team Champions, the Untouchables, and for my money, one of the best grapplers this country has ever produced, the World Beater, Damian Slater. How are you, man?
I'm good. No one clued me in about this card-carrying business, though.
You guys don't actually have cards?
Well, they might. I don't know, but I'm the new blood to the group, so I got left out of that one.
Yeah. So you're actually one of the newer additions to the Mighty Don't Kneel. How did that come about?
Just a bit of swift bribery. No, I've been pretty tight with many of the crew for a long time. Obviously, we came up together through EPW Perth, which is where Mikey and Shane started the whole thing off, and then Marcus Pitt obviously joined along. So we've always been pretty tight, and it was actually something that was discussed for many, many years and just never eventuated. So eventually it just became the perfect time, and I was inducted and given my card, which
given the card
still hasn't arrived, but
still in the mail.
But address.
One of the biggest requirements, though, I'm guessing, just from looking at the group, you got to be a body guy at this point.
You got to be jacked to be in TMDK.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like one of the biggest requirements. We'll get to some more TMDK talk later, but I wanted to start actually with last night for the people that are listening to this, tomorrow night for us as we record this, the launch of World Beater Wrestling on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the places it goes. These web series are kind of all the rage at the moment. What makes World Beater Wrestling a little bit different?
So the whole point of this for me was I saw a big gap in terms of wrestling training drills, and not just in terms of like, you know, doing a nifty spot and chucking it up on the internet. That was part of the inspiration. I have been filming my training drills and just little cool sequences and stuff that I've come up with or learned along the way. And I've always just filmed them, and every now and then I'd load them up on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, but didn't really put any effort into it. It was kind of just like a throwaway, just to put some content out there. And then I've always realized that there's more to marketing yourself than just your in-ring product, and it's also the out of ring too. So I thought, why not kill two birds with one stone? And I just had an idea to start uploading some form of training content from the EPW School. We've got an awesome school up here, so I had that idea, and then I thought, well, why not put a bit more effort into it and actually make it into, you know, a regular weekly thing, add some fancy graphics and all the rest, and here we are. So I've decided to focus more on conditioning drills, at least in the initial stages, just because I don't see anything like that. I haven't. There might be stuff out there. I just don't see a lot of that kind of stuff. You know, the cardio and warm-ups, stretches, and strength training. And I always get that question. It's probably the most common question I get from fans who are looking to make the journey into wrestling, and there's just been nothing out there. So that's
there's a bit of a hole.
There's a massive hole.
Yeah,
it's almost.
There used to be one. The Chikara school used to upload videos. Because I remember when I was training, I used to watch the videos of like Ophidian and stuff doing the bridging neck, like the twisting bridges and stuff.
Awesome.
And but I haven't seen anything since like they stopped uploading in like 2016 or something.
Sure. No, there's definitely a gap, and there's always room for more. And like, I'm proud of what we have here at the EPW School, and I just think the old wrestling mentality of keeping everything kayfabe and keeping it all hidden away and locked away and that kind of thing, I feel like it's a little bit obsolete now that we have the social media age. You know, why not use that reach and spread the message? And I can only see good things to come from something like this.
You mean wrestling's not real? What's what are you talking about? No, so
these conditioning drills are certainly real. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the fitness that you have to do, like to do the training, is insane. Like I've had to stop training for health reasons, and you have to be a peak athlete. Like, we know that as wrestling fans, but you're one of the head coaches over there at the EPW School of Pro Wrestling,
correct?
And you started your training with like Hartley Jackson and stuff. He's now at NXT Performance Center. You've trained at the Performance Center. How much does that, like Performance Center style, how much does all that inform what goes on at the EPW School itself?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, I was only there for a week, so I can't say that I did a proper training run with them. I was there for different reasons. So, but like a lot of the lessons that I found when I moved over to Perth 2 years ago, I found that the Perth guys were doing a lot of the same stuff that I was doing in Adelaide, and it's purely because we've all had the same experiences. If you look back to Hartley Jackson and Mikey Nichols 10 or so years ago, they went over to the States, and they were pretty much the first crew to start branching out and expanding their knowledge. So they brought back a lot of the New Japan drills and tips and tricks, and that became the Wrestle Rampage training curriculum. And I know that they brought the same back to EPW. And then throughout the years, you know, we've all gone in different directions and brought back our lessons, and we've kind of all been on the same page. So, yeah, I mean, we do take aspects of what they do at the Performance Center for sure, but we also take a lot out of the Japanese playbooks. And I know I myself like to incorporate a little bit of what I've done with jiu-jitsu and catch wrestling and martial arts as well. So I feel like we've got a really cool package, and a lot of different experiences have come together to build the curriculum we now have.
Yeah, so I wanted to get into that actually, because I'm a big fan of the catch wrestling style, and you and Gavin are two of the best, you know, catch style grapplers in the country, to my knowledge. So I'm looking at the EPW School, and I'm just like, these students better be good. And the showcases have showed it so far that it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, the showcases show, you know, the next 5 to 10 wrestlers who are currently coming through but not quite on the main shows. But then we have a further countless other trainees who haven't been on shows yet and show plenty of promise. So I think currently we're up pretty close to triple digits in terms of our trainees. I think we're probably at about 70 or 80 on the books at the moment, and that fluctuates. But ever since they moved to Malaga here in WA, the numbers have just skyrocketed. So yeah, we do, we put our reputation on the line, certainly, but I think so far, especially with the generation coming through now, they're definitely living up to it. So hopefully, in the next 2 years, we see a lot of good names come out of the EPW school, and we can obviously ride their coattails in our latter years of our career.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I've seen posts from various people about how, Perth used to be kind of the standard bearer in Australian wrestling, but it's since sort of shifted to Melbourne is often the consensus, or, I would easily argue Sydney with PWA and their work there. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that whole idea of Perth, fall from glory almost?
Look, there's different ways to look at it. And I truly believe that wrestling is 80% hype, 20% action. And especially now with social media, all it takes is a couple of cute gifs and suddenly so-and-so is seen as being a top independent wrestler. The wrestling at EPW is still phenomenal. I think the biggest drop-off has been more so in the fan base. EPW was once getting anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people a show, and that was a regular, consistent thing. And this is before the big boom of the independents. And then, as wrestling goes in waves and peaks and valleys and all the rest, there was a little bit of a drop-off with the fan base, and you could put plenty of reasons on it. There was a huge drop-off of talent as, Mikey and Shane went overseas to Noah in Japan, and then 3 or 4 of the top EPW wrestlers all retired around the same time. So that, in addition to venue problems and all sorts of things, you can blame anything for drop-off. So I think at the moment EPW does have a lot of hidden potential and hidden talent, and it's just that it's not quite being seen. We have a pretty good developing fan base at the moment, and things are certainly on the up. But yeah, not quite in the same number region for our shows as we used to be. Whereas obviously your MCWs and your PWAs are really, really taking off at the moment. So that's where we hope to be. We hope to be able to put our talent on show in front of larger crowds and start getting not only the country talking, but get the world talking.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned MCW and PWA. I think we got to bring up PCW as well. They put 2,100 people the other week. It's crazy.
Massive. Yeah. And that's, same night as MCW, almost 3,000 people in the same city. That's unreal. That would be huge in any city in the world. And they're all doing great things. And you can just see the step up. If you look at a PCW or an MCW, PWA, I could count multiple others. There's just been such a big boost in production quality, in bringing in some of the best interstate wrestlers and putting out stories and that kind of thing that are more engaging and target a different audience. I mean, if you followed wrestling, Australian wrestling in the last 10 years, there was this long period of family-friendly shows where, you'd have your meat raffle in the middle of the show, and then you'd have your kiddie-friendly stuff. And it just seemed like there wasn't a distinct audience that anyone was targeting. They were trying to get everyone, and in turn, they were getting nobody. But now some of the East Coast companies have really just laid it down and said, hey, we're going to target the 18 to 35-year-olds, which was always a big risk in a lot of promoters' eyes because, you target 18 plus, you're alienating families and kids and adults and just for this small demographic. But as we know from the independents, that small demographic has now become the most passionate, the most engaged, the ones who will come to every show, who will follow it online, who will spread the word. And I feel like the East Coast have done a great thing in targeting that audience and really, really capitalizing on where the independent wrestling world is at the moment.
Yeah. Wrestle Rampage is starting to do it as well. They do a few at Fowler's.
Oh, hell yeah. Yep.
And the 18 plus shows at Fowler's are brilliant. It's just got a completely different vibe When there's no, I mean, look, as a fan, I love watching the kids smile and stuff, but also when there's no screaming children, it can it can sometimes help. But going back to the EPW school showcases, how did they come about? Like, where did the idea for putting on the school shows and putting them on the Vimeo as well? Because a lot of places that do school shows and they don't really upload the footage from them, but these have been very public, which I appreciate. I love it.
I think it was a bit tentative at first. I know there was a little bit of drawback in that. I think a few people were a little bit worried that if we put a school show out on Vimeo, that people would mistake it for a main show, and that would be their opinion of our very best of the best. But 2 shows in, and they've been fantastic shows, and that's from a roster of guys who most of them aren't even getting time on main shows and aren't getting a lot of in-ring time, and they're using that as a platform to really step up and put themselves on show, and then hopefully crack into the main shows or interstate. And I guess when you come in with a chip on your shoulder, it definitely helps your product. So they were that good that you can't not put them out there. There's been some phenomenal things, and hopefully, with what's coming up, we've got some huge matches on the future showcases. So it's going to be something that becomes its own little niche, at least we hope. But I mean, the reason for the whole showcases was just more experience. At the moment, we only have 6 EPW main shows this year at a new venue, and that was a part of the business plan of moving to a new venue. So in turn, rather than have 2.5 months between shows, the showcase allow our wrestlers to get work, every 3-4 weeks. So I can only see it as a benefit for everyone.
Yeah, no, and I'm really enjoying the show as well. And playing host to the Rising Star Cup is a lot of fun. I think that's a great idea. Again, I'm a big Chikara fan, and so the Young Lions Cup is a huge deal for me. And the Rising Star Cup, I'm like, it's obviously it's different, but it feels like it could become something really awesome.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. I mean, there's a lot of talent that are definitely eligible for that cup, and especially as some of our next generation start to make their way into shows, I think you're going to see hopefully a whole new roster of youngins. I'll call them youngins. They're not all youngins, but you're going to get a whole roster of young talent coming through, and you put a cup on the line, and there's some motivation right there for you. So, I mean, the way I see it, everyone should have a chip on their shoulder. We've got a roster of 38 to 40 wrestlers at the moment, and that's just local talent, and that's not even including some of these rookies coming through. So I think everyone should have a chip on their shoulder. Everyone should be getting into the ring every single time and looking to make a statement and prove that they belong in this ring. And that's where tournaments like the Rising Star Cup and events like the showcases will play a big part.
Yeah, absolutely. And at one of the showcases, May 3rd, upcoming match you have with Gavin McGavin, a timed rounds match, classic catch as catch can matchup. How many people does the PWA school hold? Like
the EPW school holds roughly, I think we're looking at 120 on the first show. That was standing room, and I think it could have fit more. So my guess would be probably about 150.
Okay.
And that's if we pack it in. And so far, I think first show 120, second show up near 100, and that they were within 3 weeks of each other. Yeah. We've got obviously myself against McGavin for the EPW title in a pretty unique match, and a match you wouldn't see anywhere else. You probably haven't seen anywhere else. No. I'm hoping we sell the place out.
I'm just thinking of how you're going to clean up that many melted faces after the technical wizardry that's on display.
Minds will be blown.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. I'm looking forward to it a lot. And, Gavin does have another shiny new belt as well from this last weekend over in Hunter Valley.
Tell me about it. I was there.
I know. I don't know. Maybe you should throw out a challenge there too. Like, you were there. You compete in Hunter Valley.
True.
Put it all on the line.
I would, but apparently having the Hunter Valley title means that you don't get to main event, whereas being Damian Slater means you do get to main event in Hunter Valley. So maybe I don't need the championship.
Right.
I love triggering Gav.
He'll love that. I want to go back now, though, in the archives. You actually you posted an image to Instagram a couple of months back of your debut in EPW back in 2005, I think you said it was. And the gear. Any regrets?
At the time, PVC baggy shorts were the most in thing in independent wrestling, so I stand by it to my grave. It was a different time, honestly, for anyone coming up. Hey, look, Hartley Jackson used to wear tracksuit pants, all right? So, and that was honestly the coolest thing I'd ever seen when I was a fan of the local product. His cargo pants, I went out and bought a pair from Kmart as soon as I could. So, look, different time. We didn't have gear makers as readily available as they are now, so it was a case of finding a grandma who would stitch you something together, and you give them an image, and that's what you get left with a half of a lazy boy couch. So it is what it is.
Well, you guys over there have some of the best gear in the country now, I'd say. So, onward and upwards. How important is gear to a character and to a wrestler?
Massive. Honestly, I promote this so much to not only our guys, but just to everyone who asks me for feedback and advice. I think looking world class is huge now, especially because there's just no excuse. I know I go through a gear maker in the Netherlands, and I've gone through gear makers in America and Japan and all over. So it's so easy to now reach out overseas, and there's just so many quality gear makers, and the standard has really lifted. So now that the standard has lifted, there's no excuse to have shoddily made gear. And obviously presentation is half the battle. So between gear and your look and looking the part, I feel like that's the first image that people get when you walk out of the curtain. So that's going to be one of the most lasting images.
Yeah, absolutely. So, something I don't know if I've heard you talk about much was a match from a few years ago, which could be considered one of the best matches I've ever seen live, back in Adelaide at Wrestle Rampage, Shinsuke Nakamura. Yeah. How is it working with Shinsuke?
Oh, man, that was unreal. I just wish there were more people there. It was just a crazy experience. It was a double-header show, and the first night I was against Shinsuke, and the second night I teamed with Shinsuke against Hartley Jackson and Jonah Rock. We were at a new venue, and we were probably in a little bit of a down period, so I think there was probably only 150, maybe 200 people at each show. And I mean, we're talking maybe a year before the independence really booms worldwide, and before New Japan really boomed worldwide. So we're talking Shinsuke Nakamura, who was at his absolute peak, and the buzz just wasn't there. So the match itself was some of the most fun I've had in wrestling, and to work with someone like him, he's just on another level in terms of in-ring. And for me, that would be my only regret, is I feel like it was just a year off being something
one of the biggest shows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But hey,
because I think it would have been like 9 months later or something, they did the Wrestle Kingdom. That was the first one that streamed on New Japan World.
Yeah, I think so. And then it wasn't too long until he got picked up, probably another year or so. I mean, we got him at a good time for us, obviously, because if we'd waited a year, I don't even know if he would have been an option to bring over. But a little bit early, but for me, just unreal. I'll never forget that weekend and that night, and I just remember it bringing a lot of confidence in me. I'd wrestled at internationals before and that kind of thing, but to go head to head for 20, 25 minutes with someone who I strongly believe was the best wrestler in the world, that was a huge confidence boost.
Yeah. Does it ever become surreal, like as a wrestling fan, like looking at some of the names that you've worked, some of the places you've been with wrestling, just a kid from Adelaide?
Mm-hmm. It's always surreal, and it's one of those things where sometimes it just hits me. I'll just be normally it's like if I'm at my day job where I'm a teacher, and, I'll be playing a bit of dodgeball with some 7-year-olds, and then it just hits me like I just did this, or a few years ago, I wrestled this guy. This is crazy.
Yeah, I wrestled for New Japan on the weekend.
I think it's always going to be surreal. It's never going to kick in. But I mean, it's not just me. Look at half of the Australian wrestling scene is branching out, making their way overseas, and wrestling some of the best in the world. It's like it feels like every week there's a new Australian wrestler or Australian tag team who are on a major show wrestling against the major team or major individual. So it's all on the up for all of us.
Yeah, we feel like a real hotspot for wrestling at the moment, like right behind the UK. We're hot on the heels of the UK, I'd say.
Big time. And I think there's still a long way to go, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to look ahead now. Looking ahead, over in PWA recently, Four Nations have called out TMDK. I believe they actually said you guys are a bunch of singles wrestlers pretending to be a team or something to that effect. Do you have any words for that one?
I don't even know who said that or why they said that or how they came to that conclusion, because if you look at TMDK, we are like a roster of tag team wrestlers. I mean, it started with Mikey and Shane, who were perhaps the best tag team in the world. You know, they won best Japanese tag team when they were in Noah amongst a field of New Japan tag teams. On top of that, you had Jonah Rock and Marcus Pitt went on to become a successful tag team. And then in more recent years, there was Sex Rock as well with Elliot Sexton and Jonah Rock for many years. And then obviously myself and Marcus Pitt as the Untouchables. We're like tag team specialists.
Yeah.
Say that we're singles. Is that even meant to be an insult that we're singles? Like, since when is being a singles wrestler an insult?
Yeah. Well, because I looked at the Four Nations too, and I'm like, well, they're all successful singles, but they are obviously a very successful team unit as well. It felt like an odd thing to say. I'm like, you guys are actually kind of very similar groups. I'm very excited for a potential clash there, but I did think calling out the tag team thing.
If that was to trigger us, I don't know if it's worked. But hey, we're up for a fight anytime. I don't care who it is. 4 nations, 3 nations, 28 nations. I couldn't care less.
I'm glad you say that, actually, because there is another group in PWA who I take exception to. The listeners of the show know this. Black Shirt Cool Group, right? I in fact believe black shirts are not cool. And I appreciate your green Slater Age shirt, the Navy World Beater shirt. Yep. Are you also anti-black shirt?
Absolutely, I'm anti-black shirt. I mean, I'll still make one if it makes me a bit of cash, but I'm definitely anti-black shirt.
And so can you take up my fight against the Black Shirt Cool Group, please? Because
I'm down.
Awesome.
I think that's a complete contradiction to call yourself Black Shirt Cool Group.
Yeah.
Black Shirt Lame Group.
I agree. You hear that, Conco? There's people on my side that have muscles. All right. On this weekend coming though, EPW Gold Rush, huge show. Every title on the line. I look at the card, exceptional lineup. I'm not seeing a Damian Slater though. What's the go?
Ooh, touchy subject. Do we go into this one? Yeah, look, I'm an open book. I work for myself, so yeah, why not? Okay. All right. So EPW presented an offer. They presented an idea for a tag team match for myself and Marcus Pitt. And I'm not going to lie, it was flat out insulting. It was a joke. So as a result, they said, well, if you're not going to take that, then you can have a singles match against Craven. And Marcus Pitt is all too happy to take out his frustrations, whereas I like to use my energy elsewhere. So yeah, look, I'm not wrestling. And I get it. You know, Mikey Nichols coming back, of course, that's big. And they've got this whole every title on the line gimmick. That's, cool. That's great, man. Like great tag. And the show's good. I'm not going to lie. It's probably one of the better cards I've seen in EPW over the last few years. But I mean, to offer us a tag team match that is so far below what we should be doing, I'm not going to take that. I know my worth, and I'm never, ever, ever going to compromise on that, especially not at this stage in my career. I mean, tell me on the entire Gold Rush card, tell me one person not named Mikey Nichols who has wrestled for the WWE and New Japan in the last couple of years. You can't. Yeah. Okay, so like I get what they do, the things the way they do for a reason. I get it. So I'm just going to sit it out. That's all there is to it, and I have no problems in doing that. And I'll wait for an offer that is actually worth it. I mean, like this match with Gavin McGavin for the EPW title at Showcase 3. That's a big match. That's a match I want. Yeah. That's a match I want. So I'll rest up and I'll make sure I'm ready for that one.
Yeah, and you'll be prepared, and Gavin will still be nursing his wounds from the Don. So
sure, either way. Hey, if Gavin comes 100%, either way, it's not going to end up any differently.
Yeah, awesome. So keep that chip on your shoulder. Lead by example, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Whatever. I don't care what people do.
So where can people find you, man? Just if they want to, obviously, check out the YouTube show. Yeah. Where can people find you?
So head to worldbeaterwrestling.com for my new YouTube show. It launches tomorrow, which will probably be yesterday by the time this comes out. I have weekly episodes good to go. So every week we'll have a different conditioning drill or drills. And soon I'm going to have some pretty nifty in-ring grappling and technique kind of stuff. So I feel like it's something that whether you're a current wrestler or whether you're an aspiring wrestler or even just a fan who wants to see a little bit behind the scenes, I feel like it's definitely going to be for you. So yeah, worldbeaterwrestling.com, head over and subscribe. You can head to my Facebook page, which is official Damian Slater. That will also feature my new YouTube show. Well, it won't be YouTube, will it? It'll be Facebook show. And Twitter, you can find me at Damian Slater and DSlats on Instagram. I've really got to get a hold of those people who keep taking my usernames, because now I've got 3 different handles across 3 different platforms. So
yeah, it can be frustrating. Where can people buy your non-black shirts?
Or your black shirts? You can buy my black shirts or my non-black shirts at damianslater.bigcartel.com. That's my Australian store. So if you want to save on a bit of shipping, head there. Otherwise, I do have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/Damian Slater. A little bit more range there, more options for sizes and things like that, big, small, and everything in between. So you can head there and pick up a deal. There's actually there should be a deal on at the moment when you listen to this podcast. I believe I've got it right here. I think it was about 30% off. I don't know. They make the deals 20% off. So
20% off store-wide, 30% off
store-wide. So you can pick up a couple of my shirts, and while you pick up another couple of shirts from somewhere else, hopefully the TMDK store.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for stopping by the show, man.
Not a problem.
So there you have it, the World Beater Damian Slater, anti-black shirts. You have no idea how happy about this I am. He is anti-black shirts. He is pro-fighting. So he's going to take the fight to the Black Shirt Cool group for me. And we're going to win. Colored shirts will win the day. I'm thinking of coming up for Coliseum. And I'd really like to see a showdown at Coliseum, with the Black Shirt Cool group. I want to find as many wrestlers as I can who are interested in bucking the trend. I'm putting the call out now. If you are a professional wrestler in Australia and you are anti-black shirt, come with me to Coliseum in October, set up a merch store, and let's show them that colored shirts can and will sell more than black shirts, because black shirts are not cool. They are lame. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Damian Slater. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And, of course, if you like that interview and you like other Aussie Grappler interviews, it's a light one this week because JXT's over in America, so he didn't get a chance to release a podcast, not that I've seen anyway. And Wrestle Radio Australia, Todd gets busy with life, and he, helps out with 1 million wrestling companies. He is a man of many, many hats, and so he didn't get a chance to release one this week. But we do have On The Turnbuckle with that. I mentioned it in the news section. Their amazing chat with Tyson Baxter. Well worth a listen. He broke the news that he's injured, and it's well worth a listen. Definitely get around it. But other than that, that's all. That's all I got for you. That's it. On The Turnbuckle and us. That's all we got this week in the way of Aussie Grappler interviews. Everyone's busy. It's WrestleMania week. What can we do? Moving on, let's take a look at what's happening this weekend in Aussie Grapps and New Zealand Grapps. Over in New Zealand, PWE present Battle at the Bay at Mount Maunganui Intermediate on Saturday night. Bull Adams returns to PWE to go one-on-one with T. Cole. Cutting and Will Stone face off in an Anzac Championship match. Something Battle of Wills. Brian and Lil Ted will scrap over the Northland Championship. Tickets start at $10. Back home on the homeland in Australia, up in Queensland this Friday, AWA return to the zoo for Thank Fuck It's Friday. Jesse Daniels, Rip Riley, and Blair Seeker will face off in a 3-way Violence in the Valley match. The Daniels Republic take on the team of Combat Wombat and Outback Adam. Young Chad goes one-on-one with Xander Sullivan. Sorrow and Bobby Bishop face off, and Ricky South makes the trip north fresh from the Young Lions Cup in Chikara. He's making the trip north to face off with Adonis. I don't think you understand this, guys. Adonis, go watch the Pro Wrestling League show if you want a good introduction to Adonis. This is a man who has hairy abs shaved. This match is my sleeper match for the weekend. I think this match is going to be all kinds of entertaining, and hopefully it makes tape. I want to see it. Ricky South, Adonis, very good booking. Hats off to AWA. Definitely looking forward to that one. On Saturday night, UPW returned to Gympie at the Gympie Residential Golf Club. In the main event, the Gospel takes on Ricky Rembrandt for the UPW Championship. There will, of course, be so much more on the night. Tickets start at $16.50. Also on Saturday night, IPW head to the William Duncan State School for Allegiance. Luxford and Bodie Jackson challenge the Un-Australians for the Tag Team Championship. CJ and Bojack battle in no-holds-barred action. Jesse Love and Sledgehammer face off for the Unified Championship, and Zeke Andino puts the IPW heavyweight title on the line in triple threat action against LFB and Scorn. Tickets start at $15. On Saturday night, ICW are at their home in Belconnen at the Community Centre presenting Tag Warfare. Gympie defends his title against Nix Jade. Sam Driver defends the Canberra Championship against the winner of a triple threat between Atticus Slane, Vinnie Bronson, and Xander Bolt. Dozer goes one-on-one with Alex Irvine, and of course, there will be a Tag Warfare tournament. Tickets start at $10. In Victoria, PCW Ignition, as always, takes place at the Southeastern Entertainment Centre. Tickets are $20 for that one. And AWF are in town at the Supernova. Tickets are available on Moshtix. There are live bouts at 12 p.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. daily. So if you're already heading to Supernova, definitely get down and check out some of the local grapplers at the AWF Supernova booth. I guess it's not really a booth, it's a ring. They have a ring. It's pretty hard to fucking miss. NAW are in Albion on Saturday night for Hardcore Retribution. Man, the poster for this looks like an ECW poster. It's insane. Jake Navarra and Curtis Day face off. Loverboy Lockie Hendricks goes one-on-one with the brother of his former mentor Crackerjack, the monster of a man, Gore. George Julio and Bo Bowman face off in hardcore action. Jake Wilder, Sicko Smacks, and Damian Rivers battle in three-way action, and Tyler Frost defends his NAW heavyweight title against Aiden Miller. Up in New South Wales, Saturday night, Newcastle Pro Wrestling take Club Maitland City for another big event. Parker Thomas takes on the librarian Tanner Moe. Adam Hoffman challenges Matty Wahlberg for the middleweight strap. Matt Rogers takes on Dazza and Shane Sheffield Sinclair in non-title triple threat action. And Newcastle Pro Wrestling Women's Champion Harley Wonderland will be in action. All this and more. Tickets start at $11. Also in New South Wales, Wrestling Go are at Rudy Hill School of the Arts this Saturday for Let the Games Begin on the road to the Olympic Games. Art of Destruction take on Luchikai. Zach Reynolds takes on Jay Sorbet. Lex Lennox returns to Wrestling Go to take on One Friend Johnny Whelan. Jason Dewhurst returns with the Samoan Diva Open Invitational and Open Challenge to any man or woman in Australian wrestling, and so much more. Tickets start at $5. In South Australia, my home state, Riot City Wrestling Live 46. It goes down this Saturday in Hindmarsh. James Cray and Dean Brady go to war in no DQ action. The Down Under takes on the Antivirus. Mickey Fortune and Izzy Shaw team up to take on Savannah Summers and Blair Alexis. And of course, much, much more. Tickets are $10. In Western Australia, the main event of the weekend as far as I'm concerned, EPW Gold Rush goes down at Gate 1 Theatre in Claremont. No Damian Slater, we talked about it on the interview. If you didn't listen to the interview, why are you listening to this? Go back, listen to the interview. You should have listened to the interview. Don't just skip to this part. The whole show is good, I promise. Every title is on the line at Gold Rush. Delcano and Jay Taylor are taking on the TK Task Force. Marcus Pitt and Australian sensation Craven go one-on-one. Dan Moore and Dan Steele settle their differences in a lumberjack match. The EPW tag team titles are on the line when Street Gang Hooligans defend against Kyle Steria and David Nero. EPW Coastal Champion the Big Rig Scotty Ryan defends against Julian Ward. Mikey Nichols returns to face EPW veteran Bobby Marshall. And of course, the main event. The Grand Slam champion, the real wrestler himself, the current reigning and defending HVW champion and EPW's most winningest EPW champion of all time, Gavin McGavin, defends against the Don, Michael Morleone. If Gavin wins, nay, when Gavin wins, the Don will never get another EPW championship match as long as Gavin may reign, and long it will be. And that does it. That does it. That's all the shows happening this weekend. That's a lot of shows. And that's just scratching the surface, man, because it's WrestleMania weekend. I am going to be so tired next week from the amount of wrestling I've watched. I have no idea where to even start with this stuff, guys. It's insane. I'm looking forward to it. I'll catch up with you next week. Of course, if you like what we do here, you can support us a number of ways. You can find me at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at The Greg Unchained on Instagram. If you want to interact, guys, shoot me a message. We collectively are the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter, the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Goodbye and good night. Ball 2. Armbar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it.